Effective immediately, I'll be taking control of Morrison Enterprises, my sister Charlotte announced to the stunned employees gathered in the main conference room. My father's illness means someone needs to step up, and as the most qualified Morrison, I'm the natural choice. I watched from the back of the room, noting how she'd already redecorated Dad's office with her awards and credentials before he'd even been in the hospital for 24 hours. The Harvard MBA diploma held center stage, something she never failed to mention at every family gathering. My phone buzzed quietly. Final transfer complete. 51% ownership secured through offshore holdings. Board documents prepared for tomorrow's meeting. Marcus. I typed back a quick, proceed as planned, while Charlotte continued her impromptu coronation speech. Some changes will be necessary, she declared, her voice dripping with corporate buzzwords. We need to streamline operations, optimize efficiency, and most importantly, modernize our approach to. I tuned out the rest, having heard variations of this speech during countless family dinners. While Charlotte had spent the last 5 years climbing Morrison Enterprises' corporate ladder through our father's influence, I'd been quietly building something much bigger. The consulting business, my family dismissed as a hobby, had grown into Shadow Peak Holdings, a private investment firm that now controlled businesses worth billions across 3 continents. For the past year, I'd been systematically acquiring Morrison Enterprises stock through a complex network of shell companies. Of course, Charlotte's voice cut through my thoughts, some positions will need to be re-evaluated. Her gaze fell meaningfully on me. Sarah, as head of our smaller regional accounts, I trust you understand that in times of transition, every role must justify its existence. The irony almost made me smile. My smaller regional accounts position was simply a cover that allowed me to monitor the company while I acquired it piece by piece. The real Sarah Morrison spent her days orchestrating global mergers and acquisitions that would make Charlotte's Harvard professor's heads spin. I understand completely, I replied mildly, playing my part as the underachieving younger sister. The one who'd attended state college. The one who settled for a modest career. The one they'd all underestimated. After the meeting, I visited Dad in the hospital. He lay there connected to monitors, but his eyes were alert and knowing when I walked in. Is it done? He asked quietly. I showed him my phone screen with the confirmation. Final shares purchased this morning. Board meeting tomorrow at 9 a.m. He smiled weakly. Charlotte has no idea, does she? None. I sat beside his bed. She's already moved into your office. Changed the nameplate and everything. And the employee stock program she wants to eliminate? Safe, I assured him. Along with everyone's jobs and benefits. The only position being eliminated tomorrow will be her new one as CEO. Dad reached for my hand. I should have told her years ago that you were the one I was grooming to take over. That all those small accounts you managed were actually our largest corporate clients. It worked better this way, I said. Charlotte needed to show her true colors. And she did, the moment she thought she had power. My phone buzzed again, another message from Marcus. Board packets distributed. Members receiving ownership disclosure documents now. Expect interesting reactions at tomorrow's meeting. Dad chuckled at the message. I wish I could see her face when she realizes her little sister now owns the controlling interest in Morrison Enterprises. About that, I pulled out my tablet. Want to watch the board meeting tomorrow via secure video feed? I had our IT team set it up specially. Wouldn't miss it. His eyes twinkled. Just make sure the cameras catch her good side when she learns who Catherine Shaw really is. Catherine Shaw, my professional alias, the mysterious investor who'd been buying up Morrison Enterprises stock for the past year. The name that would appear on tomorrow's ownership documents, revealing that the company's fate rested not in Charlotte's manicured hands, but in mine. As if on cue, Charlotte burst into the hospital room, still riding high on her presumed promotion. Sarah, why are you still here? Don't you have those quarterly reports to finish? Just visiting Dad, I said, slipping back into my submissive role. I'll have those reports ready for tomorrow's board meeting. Oh, don't bother attending, she waved dismissively. It's really for executive-level personnel only. You understand? Of course. I stood, squeezing Dad's hand knowingly. I wouldn't want to intrude on your big moment. That evening, I worked from my modest downtown apartment. Actually, the entire top floor of the city's most prestigious building, though my family thought I lived in a small rental across town. Multiple screens displayed Morrison Enterprises' financial data, stock movements, and the complex web of companies I'd built under the Shadow Peak Holdings umbrella. Marcus appeared on my video call, his usual composed demeanor slightly amused. The board members' reactions to the ownership documents are starting to come in. Mr. Patterson nearly choked on his evening scotch. I imagine finding out that Catherine Shaw owns 51% of the company was quite a surprise. I smiled, remembering how Charlotte had dismissed Patterson's warnings about mysterious stock purchases months ago. They've been trying to figure out who Catherine Shaw is for the past hour. The internet searches are entertaining. Marcus pulled up a screen showing various search attempts, though no one has made the connection to the quiet head of regional accounts yet. I'd chosen the name carefully, Catherine after our grandmother, who taught me that true power doesn't need to announce itself, and Shaw from my mother's maiden name. A subtle tribute to the women who'd shaped me, hidden in plain sight just like everything else I'd built. My phone lit up with a text from Charlotte. Cleared out your old office today. Moving you to the second floor with the junior staff. More appropriate for your position. Don't forget those reports. I typed back, congratulations on the promotion. See you at the board meeting. Her response was immediate. Didn't I tell you not to come? It's executives only. Trust me, I wrote. I wouldn't miss this for anything. Another call came in, this time from our father's private nurse. Ms. Morrison? Your father is asking for his tablet. Something about wanting to test a video feed. I smiled. Even from his hospital bed, Dad couldn't resist being part of tomorrow's revelation. He'd been the only one who'd seen through my careful masquerade, recognizing that his younger daughter was building something extraordinary while playing the role of underachiever. Please tell him it's all set up. The feed goes live at 8:55 a.m. Marcus cleared his throat. Security teams are in place for tomorrow. Given Miss Charlotte's temperament, we've increased personnel around the boardroom. Good thinking. I pulled up tomorrow's presentation files. Have legal standing by too. Once she realizes what's happening, she'll probably start throwing around threats of lawsuits. Already done. Though she might be interested to know that Preston and Associates, her favorite law firm, has been working for Shadow Peak Holdings for the past 3 years. I laughed, remembering how Charlotte had bragged about her connections to the city's most prestigious law firm. Any other potential surprises I should know about? Just one. Marcus's normally serious face broke into a rare grin. Your sister has apparently hired a film crew to document her first day as CEO for the company archives. Perfect. I closed my laptop, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. Make sure they get her good side when everything falls apart. The next morning I arrived at Morrison Enterprises early, wearing my usual understated business attire. The security guards, who actually reported to Shadow Peak Holdings, nodded respectfully as I passed. In the elevator, I could hear executives whispering about the mysterious ownership documents they'd received. Catherine Shaw owns how much? But who is she? Did you see the corporate structure charts? Charlotte was already in the boardroom when I arrived, standing at our father's usual place at the head of the table. She'd replaced his nameplate with one reading Charlotte Morrison, Chief Executive Officer, in ostentatious gold lettering. Sarah, she frowned when she saw me. I specifically told you this meeting was for executives only. Oh, don't worry, I took my usual seat in the corner, opening my laptop. I'm exactly where I need to be. At precisely 9 a.m. Richard Bennett, the board chairman, called the meeting to order. Charlotte remained standing, practically vibrating with self-importance as her hired camera crew positioned themselves for her big moment. Before we begin, Richard announced, we need to address the ownership documents distributed last night. As you're all aware, a majority stakeholder has emerged. Yes, Charlotte waved her hand dismissively. Some investor bought some shares. But as Dad's eldest daughter and most qualified executive. Ms. Morrison, Richard interrupted firmly, perhaps you should take a seat. This directly concerns your presumed position. I'll stand, thank you. Charlotte's smile was brittle. As I was saying, Catherine Shaw, Richard continued, raising his voice slightly, through various investment vehicles, now controls 51% of Morrison Enterprises. According to our bylaws, this gives her the right to appoint the new CEO. The camera crew swung around, capturing the exact moment Charlotte's triumphant expression cracked. What? That's impossible. Daddy would never sell controlling interest to an outsider. Miss Shaw isn't exactly an outsider, Richard replied, then turned to me. Is she, Sarah? Every head in the boardroom turned toward my corner. I stood slowly, pulling out my own stack of documents. Catherine Shaw is my professional name, I said clearly. I've been acquiring shares through multiple investment firms for the past year. The camera crew, sensing a better story, swiveled to focus on me. Charlotte's face went through a fascinating series of expressions: confusion, disbelief, rage. That's absurd. You're just a low-level account manager. Actually, I picked up her nameplate from the head of the table and replaced it with one reading Sarah Morrison, Chief Executive Officer. I'm your new boss. The boardroom erupted in murmurs as I distributed detailed files showing exactly how I'd built my business empire while maintaining my cover in the regional accounts department. This is a joke, Charlotte sputtered. Sarah doesn't have the money or the expertise to. Your sister, Richard interrupted, has been running one of the largest private investment firms in Asia for the past 8 years. The regional accounts position was just a way to monitor the company while she acquired shares. I pulled up a presentation on the boardroom screens, showing the true scope of my business holdings. Morrison Enterprises is just my latest acquisition. Shadow Peak Holdings controls interests in technology, real estate, and manufacturing across 3 continents. Charlotte sank into a chair, her perfect composure crumbling. But your apartment, your clothes, you drive a Hyundai. Appearances can be deceiving, I replied calmly. While you were broadcasting your success, I was building something much bigger. That Hyundai. It's one of 100 vehicles my company owns. My apartment is actually the entire top floor of the Shadow Peak Tower downtown. And these clothes? They're from a boutique fashion line I acquired last year. This is outrageous. Charlotte suddenly stood up, her voice shrill. I'm calling Daddy's lawyers. You mean Preston and Associates? I smiled. They've been working for Shadow Peak Holdings for 3 years. In fact, they helped structure the share purchases that gave me control of Morrison Enterprises. Just then, the boardroom's main screen came to life, showing our father in his hospital room, grinning broadly. Hello everyone, he said cheerfully. I hope I haven't missed the best part. Charlotte whirled toward the screen. Daddy, you can't let her do this. I'm the one with the Harvard MBA, I'm the one who tried to dismantle the employee stock program? Dad interrupted. Who planned to lay off half our longtime staff? Who moved into my office before I'd been in the hospital for 24 hours? But, Charlotte looked around wildly, finding no allies among the board members. This isn't fair. Actually, I pulled up another document. It's perfectly fair. While you were focusing on titles and corner offices, I was learning every aspect of this business from the ground up. Dad's been aware of my plans for months. You knew? Charlotte asked Dad, her voice small. Of course I knew, he replied. Who do you think suggested Sarah take this approach? I've watched both my daughters carefully over the years. One saw leadership as a crown to be worn, the other saw it as a responsibility to be shouldered. The next hour was a detailed presentation of my vision for Morrison Enterprises. Charlotte sat silently, watching as the board members grew increasingly enthusiastic about my plans. By the end, even her hired camera crew had abandoned her to focus on the real story. The quiet sister who'd built an empire while everyone was looking the other way. One last thing, I announced. Charlotte, you're not being fired. She looked up, surprise breaking through her shock. You're being reassigned to our new European division, as a junior executive. It's time you learned how to build something, not just inherit it. Why? She asked quietly. Why not just fire me? Because that's the difference between us, I replied. You see business as a way to elevate yourself. I see it as a way to elevate everyone. Besides, I smiled, Dad always said family should stick together. As the board members filed out, congratulating me on my presentation, Charlotte remained seated, staring at her reflection in the polished table. How did none of us see it? She wondered aloud. All those years. You saw what you expected to see, I said, gathering my papers. The quiet sister in regional accounts, living modestly, driving an old car. You never asked yourself why someone with my financial background would stay in an entry-level position for 8 years. And Dad? He really knew all along. He figured it out last year when Shadow Peak Holdings started acquiring tech companies in Asia. He always said I reminded him of himself when he was younger, building something from nothing, staying quiet until the moment was right. I held the door open. Coming. Dad's waiting to talk to both of us. She stood slowly, her designer suit suddenly seeming like a costume. I've been horrible to you. Yes, you have, I agreed. But now you have a chance to learn what real leadership means. Starting with humility. As we walked to the elevator, Charlotte spoke softly. The camera crew got everything, didn't they? Every moment, I confirmed. But don't worry. The company archives will show this as the day Morrison Enterprises moved forward, not just the day your little sister outmaneuvered you. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is the one you should watch most carefully. They might just be building an empire while you're busy announcing your own importance. As we rode down in the elevator, my phone buzzed one last time. It was Marcus. Shall I prepare the press release about the new CEO? I looked at Charlotte, who was staring at her reflection in the elevator's mirrored walls, her perfect world thoroughly shaken. No, I replied. Let's give my sister some time to adjust. After all, true power doesn't need to announce itself. The doors opened to reveal a lobby full of employees, all waiting to see what had happened in the board meeting. Charlotte instinctively straightened her spine, ready to face them with her usual bravado. But then she paused and stepped aside, letting me exit first. Maybe she was finally learning.